Welcome everyone to the next episode of the Sen Nutrition Podcast. You're with your host Bryan and Peter today, and today's episode is about nutrition is more than just calories. And what is meant by this? Well, we will go into this after I say, how you going, Pete?
Bryan, my voice is a bit hoarse, pardon the pun, but we're here. Another week. I'm sure our listeners, our loyal listeners, are looking up for the next podcast, and this one sort of came about through, well, I would say probably not by accident, but just reading through different articles that we come across this week, as well as we got a bit of a surprise for our listeners as well at the end, yeah?
Yeah, we do. We've got some good FAQs that you guys have all submitted, which is really good. And we could really preface with quoting the father of medicine, and that's Hippocrates. And he was famed by saying that food is thy medicine and medicine is thy food. And what does he mean by this? And this is saying that daily our food intake can have a massive effect on our health and should be classified as a medicine as well.
Yeah, that's well said there, Bryan. This is a topic that's pretty close to us, and obviously we've been running a company for sort of 8 going on to 9 years, and we've talked to a lot of people in the industry, outside the industry, and I'd like to put it into context from a human health point of view. It's almost like you are what you eat, and that's pretty similar to what Hippocrates was saying or sort of meaning when he said that quote. And as an example, it's like, well, if you're gonna get your veggies and you're gonna get all your meat and you're gonna put everything together in your dinner and you're gonna cook it from scratch, that's gonna be a much more nutritious meal than if you're just gonna get something from your local supermarket and just put it into the microwave, reheat it and eat that. That meal's been processed. You've killed everything in it basically through the microwave. And if you're going to eat that for a long time, your health eventually will start catching up with you. Where if you are cooking from scratch and you're getting a variety of different things, food has life, like it's grown in the ground. It's got everything through it. So the point I'm trying to make is that, not all food is the same. And this relates exactly to the food that we feed our horses as well.
Yeah. And that crossover with horses, we're trying to supply quality calories instead of empty calories or just calories just to put condition on without any reasoning behind it. And this really does stem back through the history of Sen when we discovered about the oils that trainers were using. The cooking oils in the supermarket aisle, it just didn't really add up when we were looking through a lot of trainers' diets, and we had to really deep diving, separate the fact from fiction and look at why are we supplying an oil to a horse? And we wanted that plant-based omega-3 that mirrors the grass. And there is no or very little omega-3 in a cooking oil because when it's cooked, that gets destroyed. So we really had to go down the path of what was right for the horse and then work backwards and find a suitable product.
Bryan, spot on there, 100%. You just sort of nailed it there. Further on to that, what you just said, going back into the supermarket, like obviously with the cooking oils, and then you've got something like a cold pressed extra virgin olive oil. So when you buy that oil doesn't come already inside your salad. You add that oil into your salad. So hence why obviously we add the Sen oil into our feed.
That's a really good analogy.
Yeah, it's not inside the feed, it's into the feed. So, if we look at what we do in a daily life with our feeding, like if we're conscious about obviously eating healthy, I'm not saying, we can't have the cheat days, but all we've done at Sen is we've replicated what we do in our normal lives, and we're not tree huggers by any stretch of the imagination, you know what I mean? But that's just a small example where, we do add the oil into the pellets because obviously if you are using a product that has oil inside the pellet, to me, that's a processed product.
Yeah, and it's unnecessary where we come from because we want to preserve the omega-3 levels and heating doesn't. And I work with a number of trainers and farms and a lot of them reference us as, I guess, the raw feeding equivalent where we're supplying products that have really good quality over that quantity. And what we mean by that is they're not filled out with fillers or unnecessary ingredients that don't need to be in that pellet or in that supplement. And we pride ourselves on that. We're also a feed company that not just produces feed products. We actually educate our end users to help the horse owners understand what and why are they feeding this for their horse, and recognizing that every horse is individual. Then we can work out each each piece of the nutrition puzzle for that horse.
Yeah, Bryan, 100% agree with you there. And look, we're not anti pharmaceuticals, antibiotics, deworming medications. They all have a big contribution and play a big role in the quality of the animal's life. And obviously, but you need to use them pretty much where you need to use them, not just obviously every week or every month, or as soon as there's a problem that you don't know what to do, you just throw antibiotics at the horse itself. So that's where you don't get the good results with pharmaceuticals.
Yeah. Medications on the short term, so that acute pain or acute use, is absolutely fantastic. If a horse is in really bad discomfort and you need to get them comfortable as soon as possible, medications can be used. But when you're using a medication for weeks or months, end on end, it's covering up a cause or the root problem. And working out what is causing the pain is better than masking the pain with medications, which a lot of them do have side effects over that longer term use.
Yeah, 100%, Bryan. And there is no substitute for correct nutrition. And I know that with some of the clients that we're currently working with, that we have worked with previously, even just general people that we've spoken to over the years, I know budget plays a big role because horses, they are expensive to maintain and obviously to keep. And we totally understand that people have a certain amount of money they can spend on a horse, and sometimes they can't afford to obviously, whether it's feeding our products or any other sort of company supplements. But the point we're trying to make is that it's not really that expensive to feed healthy if you actually understand the diet that you're supposed to be feeding a horse and what horses, in the wild, are designed to eat, digest, ferment. It's a fine line between having your horse looking good and killing it with kindness as well.
Yeah, that's spot on, Peter. And when we do supply horses with calories, the nutrient profile of these calories have to be beneficial for the horse. And if it is a poor nutrient profile, then over time, this poor nutrition can catch up on the body systems. So what we're trying to say is, if you can feed correctly daily, although it may cost a little bit more compared to a feed program that has just poor nutrition profile, overall, your horse is going to be in a better health position later on in life. It's going to really save on the bills that may have to counteract those health issues.
Bryan, that's exactly right. And it's hard for owners because they're investing almost in the future. So, what they feed now is what the results will be in the future. And like as an example, if you have your horse on a byproduct like Mill Run, it's going to be absolutely fine when it's a younger horse, but it might get to 7, 8, 9, 10 years of age. And then you're going to start having the problems, and those problems might be irreversible, whether it's laminitis, CMS, or any of the above. So it is an investment. Some people might think that initially, well, geez, it's $55 a bag, but if you're only feeding 1 kilogram compared to 3 or 4 kilograms of a feed that's $30 a bag, you're much better off financially because you're feeding less of a higher quality.
Yeah, 100%, Peter. And that nutrient profile is what it is. So there's no seasonal ingredients in our bags. We keep it at a set recipe, and that's the quality we pride on at Sen. It actually reminds me of a client that I do have, and they have 2 horses of similar age, and one has a really different metabolic rate. And as Peter said before, as a younger horse, has this horse had a different upbringing or nutrient profile than the other horse? So obviously you can't pinpoint this, but it does go through your head when you do get these metabolic problems later on in life with a horse. You wonder, when the horse was at a younger age, was it having its nutrient requirements supported? And then has these health conditions developed as it has got older?
Yeah, and that's like human terms, Bryan. I mean, we're no spring chickens, but we're not old either. But point I'm trying to make is that a lot of the kids, the younger kids these days, they've got food allergies, they've got, all these intolerances. Like, what are they eating different now to what we were eating when we were kids? I mean, like kids our age now, we don't have as many food allergies, intolerances than what the younger ones do. But that's the same for a horse. I mean, if a horse is brought up on an extremely high grain diet since it's a yearling, it's had ulcers since it, being a yearling, it might have been on ulcer medication for 3 or 4 or 5 years non-stop. That will play havoc, obviously, later in life. And if you're unfortunate to get one of those horses that's just had a pretty bad life, you have to try to fix those problems. Well, those problems might be that far gone that it's very hard to reverse them.
Yeah, it does make you think, Peter, because we do get a number of phone calls in the office when a horse owner has problems with their horse, either not putting weight on another feed, they want to switch to sen, they've got other performance issues, and they just want to improve it as quickly as possible. But when you do go this natural way, you have to be patient and just start at those foundations that we do outline and then work your way up. And 9 times out of 10, the horse will be in a better shape a few months down the track. And I did have a client the other day that did message me about her horse, and she was sort of looking through one of those feeding programs, and it said that she had lower digestible energy than what she needed or that was required. And I just said to her, look at the horse as a whole in front of you. How is its condition holding? And she said, absolutely perfect performance-wise and condition. And I said, these programs are just a guide. The horse in front of you will show you its response to its feed program. And as a horse owner, you know your horse inside out. And it is only a guide on paper what is required, and then you make the adjustments as the horse responds to what the nutrient profile is.
Yeah, Bryan, and just further on to that, obviously, you're being a blood scientist, I think you've interpreted over 300,000 bloods.
There's some maths we did the other day. I think it's nearly 500,000. Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah.
Well, as I said, going into that, so there's levels that you would have been looking at a safe level for blood. So just because you might be 10 points over the norm, you would not send that person sort of to hospital. And I think people get hung up about some of these online programs where, their level's a little bit low, it's a little bit high. And if it was like in a hospital scenario, they tell you to go home, but yet people get hung up about, oh, geez, it's a bit low, it's a bit high. It's just over. So it's like, well, just ignore it. Because if you did the blood test again 24 hours or 48 hours later, it'd probably be back to normal.
Yeah, the body is good at normalizing itself, pulling nutrients or trace mineral stores from around the body. So taking a snapshot, and that's what a blood test is, a snapshot in time of what the blood looked like, you can detect health problems early through that, but you can't just rely on that one result. You need a series or a history of results to properly diagnose, and that can be in conjunction with a good vet that knows their blood results, that will work with the blood scientists that do the horse blood tests.
Yeah, and further on to that, Bryan, there are some disorders in our industry that can only get fixed or corrected with nutrition, and one being if you have a vitamin mineral imbalance, whether you've got too much iron, not enough zinc and copper, or your horse is lacking calcium or what so forth. Unfortunately, there's no pharmaceutical that can give you more calcium or more zinc or more iron. This has got to come naturally, and that's where I think nutrition is a science, and it's worthy of respect, because if you do have an imbalance, you can only correct it through proper nutrition.
Yep, no, 100%, Peter. And furthermore onto that, supporting a horse's body systems, it can lead to a cascade of positive health benefits. And I'll just give you that one example. So supplying a horse with high fiber, low sugar and starch with good ratios of what Peter said, the trace minerals, especially zinc and copper, these are the benefits. So you firstly get better gut health, which is better digestion, less chances of colic, less chances of any digestive upsets, but also better nutrient absorption. So when the gut is in better health, you have a stronger immune system, because 70 to 80% of the horse's immune system is in their gut. And a very good side effect overall from feeding this profile is a better temperament, as the gut is connected to the brain via the vagus nerve. And this connection is also supported by better hormone production. So the flow and effect from food without the use of medications can be amazing.
Yeah, that's extremely well summarized, Bryan. It's all intertwined. It's all sort of interconnected. And with a healthy gut, obviously you've got a healthy brain. You're not reaching out for the calming supplements. You're not reaching out for the ulcer medication, obviously, as well, because the acidity's not there. All about balance. As I said earlier on in the podcast, what the Sen Feed program is, it is almost like doing a meal from scratch, because you do have to add the grain-free pellets. You might be using the lupin pellets. You might be adding the Colonel's herbs and spices with the gold or the extra balance or the electrolyte. Then you're pulling your sen oil on top as well. So it's almost like a nice big mixed salad in a way. I mean, that's what I'm visualizing at. And then you have to mix it through, and you're going to get all the turmeric and stuff over your hand. It's exactly the same as when you're cooking a curry.
Yeah, yeah, for your horse. And and what we find, and it is a bit of a broken record, every horse is individual, and you adjust to their response. And you're going to achieve better health and performance doing it this way than just feeding something for the sake of it with no reason at all.
Yeah, and look, there are alternatives that are much simpler, much quicker, in one bag. But unfortunately, if it was that easy, then we'd be doing the same thing. But you can't have all your supplements, all your herbal products, all your oils, all your fiber, all your proteins, everything in one bag. It's just impossible. So, some of these companies have chosen to do a feed in one bag for convenience. And there's a lot of people out there that just don't have the time to be mixing their own feeds. And we totally understand that. But to do it properly, you have to be mixing it like you're cooking your meal. And that's where we've come in, where we actually, we do promote and sell a feed program. We don't just sort of, flog and sell individual products. The take-home message from me is, especially working with a lot of trainers, and this is trainers sort of in different industries, it was a bit frustrating initially where some trainers look at food as an expense, which sort of gets up my nose pretty hard. And I realize, obviously, as I said before, budget can be an issue, but, it's like saying, well, if we're going to eat crappy food as humans, that's an expense. Well, most people try to eat healthy, or, maybe I'll say it, most people try not to eat takeaway food, fast food every single day. Maybe we can do that on a weekend, or, whenever sort of it needs to be. But for any trainers out there that, might be just feeding food as an expense, there's more to food than just calories, as we said. And there's a big difference between nutritious calories and empty calories. There's difference in a way that an oil is extracted, whether it's, a cold pressed oil, or whether it's it's a solvent extracted oil, using chemicals. So most of the time it is more expensive to eat healthy as a human, as well as obviously, for the animal side of things, it might be a little bit more expensive to feed, but you are paying for a high quality product. It's not just because our feeds are premium, we make more margin than some of the other companies. It's actually the opposite. We make a lot less margin, but it's about having a product that's of the highest quality. And that's where I think we sort of stand out from the crowd, that we don't have, 48 different horse feeds. We've only got 2 horse feeds, because horses in the wild don't eat 48 different types of pasture. Depending where they are in the world and which hemisphere, there's a pasture for each hemisphere, and that's one type. So, even along the lines as, it gets up my nose the second time is when people just, give loose and ad lib because their horse doesn't want to eat a grassy hay. Well, unfortunately, lucerne doesn't grow ad lib everywhere in the wild, and that's what not horses have evolved on. There is a place for lucerne in feeding, but not as the main forage source. So I'll finish my rant there, but the note I wanted to make is that food is more than calories, and it should not be looked at it as a cost. It's actually should be looked at as an investment.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more there, Peter, because our horses are not cheap, and we're investing into their future. And yeah, there's many ways to go about this, but the way we do this at Sen is we have a reason for feeding, and it is to help the horse's body systems and to support them from their physiology standpoint. So this will now lead into our FAQ section, and we'll try and address these FAQs as quickly as possible, probably within a few sentences so we don't run way over time. So our first one that we do get asked a lot is, can Sen oil heat up horses?
So Bryan, scientifically it's impossible, and I'm sure we've got listeners out there that will be happy to argue with us. Do you want to explain maybe why Sen oil will not heat up your horse?
Yeah, so I think the horse owner gets the definition of heating the wrong way. So heating would be from sugar and starches, or that overload on grains. So Sen oil's nutrient profile has no sugar and starch. It's a fat source, which does not create an insulin spike, which has a positive effect on behavior. The heating, in inverted commas, could be translated to feeling good, or you providing extra calories into the diet through fat. So the horse has more energy. They're not more hot, as a horse owner may say.
So that basically for an owner, if you are feeding X amount of kilos of your hard feed and you do introduce the sen oil on top of your hard feed, that horse will have more energy. So you might have to reduce your hard feed because you've brought in a fat source, which, as an example, 100 ml of oil might be 300 to 400 grams of your hard feed. So you can literally knock back your hard feed by 400 grams if you introduce 100 ml of the sen oil.
Yeah, so you'll be saving money on your hard feed by introducing the sen oil, bringing the total calories the same, and then you shouldn't have those heating symptoms, but they're more energy symptoms in one respect.
Yeah, feeling good with more energy. Bryan, a second FAQ is, will lupins make my horse loopy?
Yeah, we did a 35-minute podcast on this, and so the simple answer is they can if you have too much protein in your diet, because that can be converted to energy by the horse. So doubling up, especially lupins and lucin, which are both high in protein, can make a horse seem more loopy or more energetic.
Yeah, and that's the reason why we have a high fiber lupin pellet. So we've actually taken a protein down by almost 50% from its original source, and we've doubled the fiber, sort of up to 35% to make that protein a lot less. And obviously with a high fiber, there's more fermentable fiber there, which is a slow release energy. Hence, it will not be aggravating the horse with the extra energy, because it is a slow release fiber fermenting energy.
Yeah, so it's all about protein levels in the diet, getting more fiber into the diet, and that will help prevent those loopy behaviors that may be seen.
Bryan, I've got a third FAQ here. I think it was sent through Messenger or might have been online. And the question was, does your electrolyte fully dissolve in water?
Short answer is yes. Long answer, Pete?
So the long answer is that it is fully water soluble, and the reason why ours is, and I think 99% of the others are not, is because we don't add any sugar and fillers. So some other companies, they might have an 80 gram feed rate, but only 60 grams of that might be actual ingredients, and then the other 20% might be dextrose or a carrier.
Yeah, the funny thing about this crossover, I'm going to make this answer a bit longer, is Gatorade, so the human electrolyte drink, it never had a sugar-free version until very recently, because they thought, sugar was okay with the electrolytes. And see how human nutrition has evolved. We didn't include a sugar in our original formula, and because we didn't see any requirement for it. And all the leading companies are now changing to this way.
Are you saying Gatorade are copying us?
No, I think they're just looking at everything in this market and seeing what's right for the human, which is great.
Well, I think we sort of jumped on that pretty early, and we did our research and we thought that it didn't need sugar or any other carriers through it. And the reason for that was obviously because they don't need any more sugar in the diet. But the second point was that you can feed out electrolyte as a powdered form into your feed, but you can also add it into water. I think about 25 grams will fully dilute in about 60 ml of water, and that turns into a clear liquid like Gatorade, and then you can give that to your horse either in water or in a feed, or whichever way you please.
Yep. Yeah, perfect for thirst activation and hydration. Let's move along to the next one, and this is on the Sen Human range. So this is for the horse rider, horse owner, trainer. So the difference between the women's and men's human collagen.
Well, Bryan, apart from the pretty packaging that both of them are in, there is absolutely no difference. It's exactly the same collagen, exactly the same vitamin C, and exactly the same formula.
Yep, and the packaging is just to highlight the benefits for each gender. And we have a range of clients, both men and women, that come from a range of different industries, not just the horse or dog industry. And we would just like to highlight the benefits for each one, but it's a very popular product and people are seeing really good health benefits from this. And our last FAQ that was submitted was, what is the best way to transition to the Sen diet? So that might be a person considering moving across, and we have a few points of advice for this.
Well, Bryan, the initial instinct for most people would be, look, I'm just going to go cold turkey. It's like, well, I'm going to drop everything what I'm doing. I can see the benefits in going into the Sen Feed program. So they just pretty much drop what they have, or they, some of them might try to run out the old feed and then just start the new feed. But that's actually not the way to be doing it. So the way that you do want to be doing it, you want to probably try to plan a transition over 7 days. And the best way to do it is start with your old feed at around about a 75% of the total feed. So let's just keep it simple and go 1 kilogram. You might keep 750 grams of your original feed, and then you're going to introduce 250 grams of the Sen feed. And you're going to do that for sort of 1 to 2 days. And if everything goes well, you're going to move on to day 3 or 4 at 50% of your original feed and 50% of your Sen feed. So that's 500 grams of your old, 500 grams of your new. If that goes well, then you get on to day 5 and 6, where you're going 25%, which is 250 grams of your old, and 75%, which is 750 grams of your Sen. That's at day 5 and 6. And then once you get to the end of the week, which is day 7, you're going to have a nice glass of Chardonnay or a stiff gin like me and Brian. And you're going to be celebrating your 100% transition to the Sen feed program for better days ahead.
That's a good summary, Peter. And if you are feeding supplements in this whole feed program and you're moving to our supplements, we recommend using up your old supplements fully first and then transitioning to ours at half the feed rate, just to get them used to it. If it's a really fussy horse, to go a quarter of that feed rate and just keep edging it up. The other thing is salt in the diet. So when we recommend providing salt in your feed on a daily basis, which has many health benefits, if a horse hasn't had salt in their feed or has been prone to ulcers or something or other gastric upsets, they can be a bit fussy at the start. So introducing that slowly is another good thing.
Extremely well said, Brian. I can't echo those chain of thoughts enough. And yeah, we do get some clients on the phone that haven't fed salt before in their horse's lifetime. And what happens is we'll recommend 40 or 50, even say, if it's middle of summer, up to 60 grams of salt, and they're going to just put a whopping amount of salt in, and the horse is like looking at the food. It's probably getting watery eyes from the salt, even looking at it. So there's no way that horse is going to eat that food. So as Brian mentioned, err on a side of caution, even start with a small amount, like 5 grams, like half a teaspoon. And if the horse is eating, build up slowly. As Brian said, with the supplements, if you're not sure, or if the horse is very finicky, if we got 30 grams on a scoop, start with 1/4 of a scoop. Literally, if you were going to sprinkle a bit of salt, start with a very small amount and let the horse eat it day 1. And as it progresses along, add the supplement at a higher dose daily, because you don't want to put it off. You don't want to put the horse off on the first day, and you're going to be wasting the supplement, you're going to be wasting the food, and then you're going to get, mentally, you're going to get a little bit disheartened as well, and you're going to call us and go, my horse won't eat it, and we're going to give you this advice again. So
yeah, and the other part with fussy horses is just adding a little bit of chaff can really help. So as you know, we don't promote feeding large amounts of chaff, but 250 grams of chaff, a couple of handfuls, can be really beneficial just to help or entice the horse to eat their hard feed, or that new profile of hard feed, which is less sugar and starch to what they probably were on if they've got a sweet tooth previously. And this can really encourage them to do that. What we don't like to see is huge buckets of chaff really filling out that hard feed, because the horse has to take ages to get through that, when what we want to promote is getting them through their hard feed, eating that in a sufficient amount of time, then going back to a long stem roughage, which is better saliva production and better for their digestive health.
Well, Brian, since you've opened up the can of worms, I'm going to give chaff a bit of a bashing over the head.
It's pretty expensive stuff.
Well, Brian, it's chopped up hay sold at 3 times of the price.
Yeah, so sorry, chaff merchants.
Yeah, the chaff merchants aren't going to be sending us any Christmas cards this year. But look, horses evolved on long stem roughage. As Brian said, the saliva is very important. So they need to chew the long stem roughage whatever amount of times, which generates the saliva. Saliva helps with the nutrient digestion, and then you have less problems in the long run.
Yeah, so up to 2 times more saliva production, the research does suggest. So they're doing longer chewing hours, which is hugely beneficial for the horse. So I think that about wraps this one up, Peter.
Brian, I can hear the ice cracking in the background. I think our gin's ready.
One of our staff members, Adam, it's his birthday on the weekend, so we're going to have a nice lunch.
We'll have some cake and maybe a happy birthday song as well for Adam. So
yeah, you may get a hold of him on the phone when you guys call the office, and And if you guys have got any further questions in regards to anything nutrition related, even if you're not feeding our products or you want to deep dive your horse's diet, feel free to contact us through the social medias. We've got our office number, it's always manned. And if you're lucky, you might get through to Peter and I.
Guys, thanks very much. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you guys again next week.
Thanks, guys.